And everyone, as I said for my intro, tonight I have another opportunity to interact with you guys who have been following us for a good cause. So as I said last weekend, I'll be treating citizenship and how people who have been discriminated in the past and have been deprived of the opportunity to acquire citizenship can now do so owing to the changes in the law. This change has been in place since 28th of June 2022. And in fact, to be precise, there is a special form which has been created, application form, which has been created for this category of people who are now eligible to make these applications. So I am here to interact with you. I'm here to explain the law as I do always. If this is the first time you have joined us, we do this program every Tuesday, and now on Wednesdays. Tuesday, I do this program in Twi, and then on Wednesday, the famous MC Chaka hosts this program in the Twi language. So I want to urge you, as I'm going to do a start now, to invite your friends and family members to join me. This is an opportunity for you to know about citizenship. It's an opportunity for you to ask those questions that have been lingering in your mind. It's an opportunity for you to get free quality advice. I say most of the time that I'm not here as a doctor. I can't give diagnosis. I am not here as someone who is a family mediator, neither am I here as a pharmacist, so I can give prescription. But there's one thing that I'm very sure of. I know the law, and I'm here to share my knowledge with you. So when I finish my submission, if anyone has questions, you can ask. If you want to make contribution to the show, you are welcome. You don't have to mention your name, and I'll be happy to interact with you. So guys, I'm going to announce the topic and then give a short intro, whilst at the same time I give you guys opportunity to invite your friends to join the show. So this topic I'm going to look at is something that I've looked at part one last week, essentially looking at applying for citizenship on the basis of historical discrimination. Which covered the first generation or the first parents. By extension, I'm now looking at grandparents. It means that there are grandchildren, offsprings who qualified under the category that I explained and described vividly last week. And now, gradually, by extension, I'm looking at how one can also acquire British citizenship through grandparent or ancestry route. So, in effect, I'm looking at ancestral claims based on unfair or legislative unfairness. So you're making an ancestral claim as a British citizen based on legislative unfairness. That is what I'm going to discuss tonight. And it's going to be quite interesting how most of you out there who are perhaps by now more than 50 years, or some of you more than 40 years, can now still register to become British citizens. And this is not a fiction, this is fact. And I'm going to quote the relevant laws for you to be able to guide yourself, even though it's quite complex. But I'm going to walk that journey with you gradually to ensure that you understand what I'm going to discuss tonight. So guys, don't go away as I go on this short commercial break. Please share the link, invite your friend to invite a friend, invite your family to invite a family, and then we build a community of knowledge, because knowledge is power. That's what I'm going to do tonight. So guys, don't go away. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. As I said for my intro, I'm going to take my time to discuss citizenship. It's very important that I take opportunity and discuss the changes that have been put in place to allow those who would have had the opportunity to apply or to gain citizenship had it not been due to legislative unfairness. So for those of you who didn't join me last week at the same time, which is Tuesday, I started by looking at the Nationality and the Borders Act 2022. And then I also looked at the British Nationality Act 1981, which came into effect in 1983. So I've looked at these two legislations. But within it, if you look at the Nationality and Borders Act 2022, there is Section 8 of it, which deals with legislative unfairness or historical discrimination. And by this, I'm looking at where there have been discrimination in the law, in the Citizenship Act or Nationality Act, based on or due to one's protected characteristics. And I took my time to explain these legal terminologies, namely sex, marriage, religion, gender reassignment, and even maternity and pregnancy. But tonight, when I'm looking at discrimination or I'm looking at protected characteristics, I'm restricting myself to sex and marriage, because that is the basis of the legislative unfairness, which has now opened a floodgate for all those who didn't have the opportunity to apply for citizenship because either their parents were not allowed to pass their citizenship or their status to their children, and for that matter, their children could not pass it on to their grandchildren. So you see that what I'm going to do now, I have looked at the parents aspect, which is the first generation of British citizens. Now I'm looking at ancestral claims based on legislative unfairness. So it means that you may have a grandparent who was probably British. And I'm going to explain how that grandparent was probably a British. And therefore, on the basis of that grandparent having been British, you should have been British. But the law then was discriminatory. Discriminatory in the sense that it did not allow women who gave birth abroad to pass on their citizenship to their children born abroad. Now, some of these historical discriminations have been addressed in Section 4C of the British Nationality Act 1981. However, it did not go far enough in terms of, because if you look at Section 4C of the British Nationality Act 1981, it allows those who were born abroad before the 1981 Act, and they were born by parents abroad, they are allowed to register to then become British citizens. So that provides some remedy to the first generation of those born abroad by mothers. So you see that before the 1981, if a mother gave birth to a child abroad, they could not pass on their citizenship to that child. In the same vein, if a child was born and that child is considered to be illegitimate child, then of course that child was not able to acquire British citizenship. Some of this again has been dealt with by section 4E to 4J. But these are parents who, for example, because they were females, mothers, not being able to pass on citizenship to their children, or because they were not married, and therefore those children were what they call illegitimate children. Or the third option are children whose natural fathers are not the one the woman is married to. Of course, this is quite technical. Some women have children outside marriage, so they are married to someone and then they have a child with another person. The law did not permit, again, for those people to be able to acquire citizenship. So you find out that there have been discrimination depriving people of these rights because of the sex of their parents, because of the marital status of their parents. And though these remedies are covered, as I've already explained, in section 4C of the British Nationality Act 1981 and 4E to 4J, they didn't go far enough. And therefore, there is section 4L, which has been introduced by the Borders or the Nationality and Borders Act 2022, section 8, that has introduced section 4L into the British Nationality Act 1981. What does the section 4L talks about? One, you realize that these parents that I've just described could not. So some of them may have had children before the 1948 Act, British Nationality Act 1948, or some were born or were even born in the United Kingdom in the 1940s. But above remember, here we go into a bit of history. We have the British colonies. We have the British overseas territories, those who were colonized. So you realize that these colonies, most of them had British status by virtue of the fact that they were British colonies before independence, for example, Trinidad and Tobago. So you find out that most of these British overseas territories or colonies who had British status, and some of whom were lost after independence. So you find out that most times before the 1962 or 1948, I'm going a bit into history because this is looking at getting your British citizenship through ancestral root or grandparent. So you realize that there should be a little bit of history here for one to be able to trace the ancestral root. And that's why I'm taking my time to obviously explain most of these things gradually, because of the fact that without the history, people will not be able to assimilate or understand where I'm coming from. So, with Section 4L, I have mentioned the British colonies, the overseas territories, which quite clearly those who were colonized during those years before some independence. Some of them retained their citizenship, some could not. So you find out that if, for example, a grandparent born in the United Kingdom before either the 1948 or 1962, when, for example, countries such as Trinidad and Tobago had their independence, those grandparents born in the UK were automatically British. So here I'm going to take my time to explain by looking at scenarios. So let me take, for example, my own mother, Cecilia, born in the United Kingdom before 1948, and then gives birth to a child called, for example, Thomas in Ghana, many years. This child, for example, could not become British because the mother born in the UK, though British, could not pass on the citizenship to that child. So you find out that there have been legislative unfairness depriving that child, Thomas, from citizenship. Now, this person then gives birth to a child abroad. So that child becomes the grandchild of Cecilia. So you find out that one, Cecilia's child could not become British because of the legislative unfairness, which did not allow Cecilia to pass on that citizenship to her child born abroad. Though Cecilia is British, either he was within the colonies at the time, so he was British, or because he was born in the UK at the time, and therefore he was a British. Remember, those in the colonies that time, they were also British citizens. And many years before the 1986, we have Ghanaians coming to the United Kingdom without having to obtain any visa whatsoever. So this is what persisted during that period. And therefore, you have two generations who, due to historical unfairness, have been, or legislative unfairness, have been deprived of British citizenship. And it is this category of people that I've just given a scenario based on that sex that did not allow that mother, Cecilia, to pass on citizenship to the son, and then the son being able to pass it on to their grandson. It is this category of people that Section 4L stipulates that if they now make an application and they are of sound mind and of full capacity, which is mean that some of these people by now are quite old. But of course, if they are of sound mind, this is what the law says. If they are of sound mind and they are of full capacity and they are of good character, remember the character requirement, good character requirement always applies whenever one is applying for British citizenship. So if these three conditions are met, and the only reason that that grandchild could not become British was because of the fact that the grandmother could not pass on to either the father or the mother, and for that reason the mother could not pass it on to that grandchild. And if one is able to point, it doesn't matter whether that grandparent has died, as long as one can show that evidence, that person from 28th of June 2022 will be eligible to register to become British. Isn't it a good news? Right. So the next category of people are those who, for virtue or by reason of not being married. So you find out that here there could be fathers who were born British, some of whom may have joined the army and have given birth to children abroad, because remember, those who are still members of the armed forces, if they give birth to children, those children become automatic British. So you find out that these guys, either because of the fact that they were serving in the British overseas territories or in the colonies, or because they themselves were British born in the United Kingdom at the time, and therefore they were automatically British. And whilst abroad, they gave birth to children and could not pass on their citizenship to those children. Why? Because those children were what they call illegitimate children, because that father was not married to the mother whom he gave birth to that child with. So you realize that I've given the first scenario, mothers not being able to pass citizenship to their grandchildren, fathers because of the fact that they are not married. So if, for example, you have someone who is a British before the 1948 and gave birth to a child abroad, and because he was not married to that mother, that child could not become British because he could not pass on that British citizenship to that child. And eventually, that particular person then gives birth to a child who then becomes the grandchild of the first generation, and again was unable to acquire citizenship. So this second category of people, from the 28th of June, the update of the law is that they are now eligible to make application again if they are of sound mind, full capacity, and of good character, that they are eligible to apply for citizenship. So you find out that I have discussed the first category and then the second category. I will soon go to the third category, but before I do that, as I do always, I want to acknowledge my viewers who have joined me tonight to make this program a success. It's always a privilege to have you guys on here on this platform where we teach the law. So if you are on here, kindly put a comment here, and of course I'm going to acknowledge your presence as I do always. It always gladdens my heart to find you guys on this platform trying to learn the law and then spreading the good news to those out there who, for one reason or the other, may need some of this advice. Last week when I was doing this program, I gave two scenarios of people who have been deprived of British citizenship, who are now eligible because of this new law, which has been in place from 28th of June 2022, by virtue of Section 8 of the Nationality and Borders Act 2002, which has given rise to this Section 4L that I'm discussing. So guys, if you are here with me tonight, just make a comment and then I'm going to acknowledge you as I do always. I have Sophia Song who is watching tonight. Sophia, thank you so much for always being a member and joining us every now and then on this show. I have Flosi Chinaguro. If I have not mentioned your name properly, please pardon me, my Nigerian friends. Then I have Ellie and then 4 others who I can see their names. I have Nana Frema. Nana Frema, it's been a while. Thank you once again for being part of the show tonight. I have Snaka Kari, who is always here with us, spreading the good news. Thank you so much, Ernestina, for joining us every now and then. It's a good job. God bless you, lawyer. I have Philosopher King, who is working tonight. I have Abigail Asari said, good evening, boss. Wow. Asari, thank you for joining us. I have Yasmin Hanif. Wow, Yasmin, thank you for joining us tonight. He said, hi, good evening, stay blessed. I have Richie Dusuraz. Richie Dusuraz. I don't know whether you are Spanish, but Richie, thank you for joining us tonight. It's amazing to have new members joining us every now and then to learn and get updates of the law. This is where all the updates of the law, especially on immigration, are given. So tonight, I am here, as I do always, to give you update of the changes of the law. As I was saying, there was somebody who phoned me and said, look, my father is a Scottish. I was born in Ghana. Now I'm here as a student, and owing to some of these changes, I now feel that I am eligible to apply for British citizenship. And before June 28, 2022, it was not possible because this person was considered as an illegitimate child. But of course, owing to this change, there is now significant expansion of the possibility of many of you now being able to register or to acquire citizenship through ancestral claim, owing to legislative unfairness. So I have Chief Lancaster watching tonight. Chief, thank you so much for always joining us. Chief said, Lawyer Bakumpe. I salute you, Chief. I have Sir Vasco Damwa. Well, Damwa, I'm so waiting to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, guys, it's been amazing always being in this studio, spreading the good news, giving update of the law for you guys out there. So if you have just joined me, I have been discussing citizenship. And I said that last week I looked at parents who were not able to pass on citizenship to their offspring, their children. And now I'm looking at getting citizenship through ancestral route, meaning that making an ancestral claim on the basis of legislative unfairness. This, as I have repeatedly made it clear, gives quite significant expansion of possibility of many of you out there being able to gain your citizenship. You might be here studying, and sometimes after watching this program, you realize that, oh, my grandmother was a British. She was in the British colonies. She was in the British overseas territory. And for that reason, because mothers could not pass on their citizenship to their children, my father, who was born by my grandmother, who was then in the British colonies or overseas territories, or British because he was born in the United Kingdom, could not pass on to my father. And for that reason, I have been deprived of that opportunity. I am speaking to you tonight that if you looked at the new or the changes that have been put in place since 28th of June 2022, it allows people like you to now apply for British citizen. If you are of a sound mind, of full capacity, and of a good character, which is always permissive requirement for every application made under the British Nationality Act 1981. That is what I've been discussing tonight. Now, the last category of people that I want to look at, obviously, is a minor. I've looked at two of the categories: those who were mothers or grandmothers, those who were fathers and gave birth to illegitimate children, and finally, those who were children or natural fathers of a married couple. So you realize that some women, for one reason or the other, were married but had children with another person. The law did not allow it. So imagine that someone is married. These days they don't have to force people to go through DNA because there has been a change in the law. But of course, then if one, or of course these days when we even make application, we are still making application for people who have been born abroad for one reason, those who, especially who are entitled to gain British citizenship, we make the application for them. Passport office doesn't ask for DNA, but they are quite invasive. They ask a lot of questions. And remember, before the change of that law, if someone was married, if you look at even the family law 1986, you look at it, who the father of a child is. And here, the same discrimination was quite permissive, in the sense that if someone was married and had a child, then that natural father of that child could not pass on the citizenship to that child. Again, this third category, it meant that that child, born from what some people will say, wedlock or whatever, could not acquire British citizenship. And for that reason, any child born of that child could equally not acquire that British citizenship, because of the fact that the father or the mother was born of a natural father who was not married to that person. So, again, if you look at the section 4L, anytime I come here, I speak facts, not fiction. If you look at it, you realize that there is quite an expansive category of people, including those who are married and had children with a natural father whom they were not married to. So you realize that this also extends to the second generation. These people could not pass on their British citizenship to their children because of the fact that those women were in a marriage. Sometimes people have separated for a long time, they have a child, and that natural father could not pass on that citizenship to that child because of the fact that that woman is still in marriage, even though sometimes it's just marriage in name. So that is what Parliament have looked at, and obviously in their wisdom have come to that reasonable conclusion that there was quite expansive legislative unfairness depriving these categories of people of British citizenship, and therefore from 28th of June 2022 they are now eligible to apply for British citizenship because of the fact that there was a discrimination on the basis of protected characteristics, which is marriage and sex. So at this point, I'm going to, obviously as I do always, open the phone lines for you guys who want to ask questions. But to summarize tonight, I have the privilege to discuss the British nationality law. I have looked at the Nationality and Borders Act 2022, particularly Section 8, which has given a new category of people who are able to now apply for citizenship based on ancestral claims because of legislative unfairness. In this case, I am saying that people who could not pass on their British citizenship to children born abroad because their sex, which is a woman, could not do that. And I've said that if you look at the law, section 4C, there has been some remedy. Why? When I say remedy, it means that if you look at section 4C of the British Nationality Act 1981, a woman who gave birth to a child abroad and that child could not become British because that person is a woman, that remedy in section 4C allows for that child to register to become British. So now you find out people who are about 50 years or 40 years being able to register to become British because that has been remedied under section 4C. However, that section 4C does not go far enough because that mother could not pass on British nationality or citizenship to the child born abroad, and that child born abroad could not equally pass on that citizenship to their own children, and those children are now eligible under section 4L to now apply for British citizenship because of the fact that from the 28th of June 2022, this new law have made it now possible. So there is now significant expansion of the possibility of all these group of people making application to become British on that basis. And I've also looked at fathers who could not pass on their citizenship because they were not married to those women they had children with, born abroad again. And because this go far, I have also looked at the British colonies and those in overseas territories. And you find out that, for example, if you look at Trinidad and Tobago before they became independent in 1962, those born in 1948 before 1962 were British. And those people, obviously, because of the law at the time, those grandparents could not pass on their citizenship to their grandchildren. This new law now allows them to do that under section 4L. And there is a separate application form and separate guidance for applicants and separate guidance for case workers. And in fact, I don't want to go far, but the guidance even makes it clear that if one can identify and set out that they would have become British, if not because of legislative unfairness, and they're able to point to any of the British Nationality Act 1980, any section of the British Nationality Act 1981 that didn't make it possible for them to become British. Here, that is where lawyers will come in, because we need to look at those areas. So there are those who can make application under exceptional circumstances if they're able to point to any of those sections of the law that was quite unfair in the sense that it did not allow them to become British because of those legislative unfairness. So it's been quite amazing having you guys tonight. At this point, I'm going to open the phone lines. If you have any questions and you want to ask, or if you have any contribution, or if you have anything to say, I'm opening the phone lines, and you have the permission to join me tonight. But whilst doing that, as I do always, we need to also advertise our sponsor. The sponsor for this show is no other law firm than CITI Law Solicitors, the winning firm. So the phone lines are now open. They are quite right here. If you have anything, any contribution to make, you are free to do so. To repeat the phone lines, which is on the screen already, is 0744 033 8623 or 0793 293 4518. Please, these phone lines are also on the screen. So if you want to ask any legal question, this is your opportunity to get free quality legal advice. Right.
This program is proudly sponsored by CITI Law Solicitors. If you don't know CITI Law Solicitors, CITI Law Solicitors is a solicitor firm in Barking. The office address for CITI Law Solicitors is Unit 113 to 122 Barking Enterprise Center, 50 Cambridge Road, Barking, IT 118FJ. If you want to visit us, once you get to the Barking station, you come out of the underground station, the train station, you just turn right. There is a KFC there. You just walk past it and turn right again. There is a road called Cambridge Road, just by the zebra crossing, and you walk for literally a minute, and you find Barking Enterprise Center. That is where you can find CITI Law Solicitors. Now, I'm going to announce our areas of specialization. Tonight, I've looked at immigration. CITI Law Solicitors, we specialize in immigration law, nationality law, and asylum law. So, if you had any cause to come to us, all your immigration issues are covered. We cover all areas under the immigration law, including European law, which is still in force because we're still doing late application for EU citizens and their family members who still have to bring some of them from abroad. Some have to say make the late applications. So we're still dealing with EU cases. We're still dealing with appeals, administrative reviews. So every immigration matter is covered by CITI Law Solicitors. We also specialize in employment law. If you were dismissed from work and you feel that you have been unfairly dismissed, or if you have suffered or you are a victim of discrimination, obviously you can see that tonight I have described discrimination, which has now paved way for people to make applications to become British citizens because of the fact that there was historical discrimination in the law. So again, if you are at the workplace, you have become a victim of bullying and harassment, you have been discriminated because of your race, your color, because of your religion, because of your sex, which is what I've just explained here, because you are married, because of your gender reassignment, because you are pregnant, or you are a nursing mother, all these fall under the Equality Act, which we call protected characteristics. So we deal with all these cases. Those of you who have been employed for 2 years and more, and you have been dismissed, if it's unfair dismissal, we will be here to represent you. We do most of all these cases on no win, no fee basis. We assess the case. If it's worth it, we take it, and then we deal with it. We only get paid when you receive your compensation. So that's what we do in CITI Law Solicitors. Family law, we are family law accredited. If you are looking for a family lawyer, you don't go far. Now, what I mean by family law accredited is that we are not just a solicitor firm. We have accreditation in family law. So we are the peak of the practice when it comes to family law. Many times I have discussed a lot of family law issues on this platform. If you have mixed any of them or you have a need to watch any of them, this also stays on the platform permanently, and you can revisit them if there is any reason for you to watch any of our family law matters. So we specialize in family law. If you want to have contact or child arrangement order in place because you've been deprived of opportunity to have contact with your child or your children, will support you. If you have suffered domestic abuse, this time I have always repeatedly made it clear that domestic abuse is now a criminal offense. And therefore, if you are a victim of domestic abuse and you want us to represent you, or if you have been accused as the perpetrator of domestic violence in the home, then of course you may need proper legal advice and representation, because this is domestic abuse is criminal offense. You may end up in prison. I always say it here that I represented a client and the other party is now in custody, is in prison because of domestic abuse. So I know what I'm talking about this domestic abuse. If for whatever reason you've been through divorce and you want to settle your matrimonial assets, distributed, we'll be here to assist you. Personal injury and clinical negligence, if you ever had accident, motor accident at the workplace, accident at the public place, that was not your fault, City Law Solicitors will be able to represent you in this matter. Commercial disputes and civil litigation, if someone is owing you, doesn't want to pay you, or if you have made some purchases and goods have not arrived, the company have refused to adhere to the contract, again, we'll be here to assist you. If you have a company, you want to have a partnership agreement in place, you want to enter into contract, these days, guys, you need to have proper contract in place, because most times there are a lot of disputes just because people did not agree and formally put a written contract in place. So if you need any of those services as a small business, we'll be here to assist you. Housing law, if you are being unlawfully evicted, or if you need to make an application for rent repayment order, again, we'll be here to assist you with all these cases. So guys, these are the areas that we specialize in, and if there is any reason that you need our assistance, we'll be willing to assist you. The office telephone number is 020-3355-0782. It's also on the scrolling graphic, so you can note it down. So, if you found what I have discussed tonight, or if you have missed any part of it, this program remains on this platform permanently. So if you find it very exciting, very insightful, very educative, very tantalizing, you can watch it again and again and again, because the program is recorded and it stays there. Guys, everything that I have discussed here under our disclaimer is for guidance only. We always urge you to seek proper legal advice. So, it's been quite amazing to have you guys. Let me just acknowledge those who join us later on of this program. I still have Lancaster, whom I have already acknowledged. And I have Nanaya Flokin, who is also watching. Thank you so much, Nanaya, for joining us tonight. I have Ajua Inti, who is also watching. Ajua Inti, thank you again for also joining us. I think I have already acknowledged Yasmin Hanif. Guys, so it's been quite amazing to have you guys on board. On Wednesday, I'm going to be here again with a famous MC Chaka, and I will bring to you the tree language, where we will be able to discuss what I've discussed tonight. I'm so grateful to all of you who have joined us tonight, and I urge you to spread the good news that from 28th of June 2022, there have been significant expansion of possibility of many of you to acquire British citizenship. And if you have made the show, I urge you to listen to you again or watch it again, because you could be eligible to apply for British citizenship through your ancestors. They are dead and gone, but they are still working miracles in your life. Thank you.